Shabbat Shalom, everyone. It is lovely to see the room this packed. It should be like this every week. Tonight's sermon is entitled The Importance of Community, or the World's Best Synagogue. I thought I'd start with the smallest unit of community. I mean both figuratively and literally, the smallest unit of community. Recently, as a few of you know, I became a father. And it got me, please, Jonathan, take applause. I did almost none of the work, but it got me thinking about those mugs that say World's Best Dad. You know the ones, right? And the joke is that there are thousands or maybe millions of these mugs, so World's Best Dad isn't actually an objective measurement of the world's best dad. What the mug means to the child giving the mug to their father, or boss to their secretary, or secretary to their boss, or husband to their wife, is it's a relational statement. To that child, you are that child's world's best father because you are that child's main father. You are the one with whom they have the relationship. You are the smallest unit of community for that child. And as they grow, that community will get larger and larger and larger in concentric circles. We are a community. Our cities are communities, and our nation is a community. But unfortunately, now I want to go from the micro to the massively macro. America, since the 1950s, has been losing our ability to form relationships and maintain communities. On average, Americans have fewer friends and live farther from their families than we have ever in the past. And we are facing what is called time and time again an epidemic of loneliness in our country. Humans are profoundly social creatures, and we crave being in relationship with other beings. And isolation for human beings is a form of torture. Here's the challenge we face today. Human relationships are built face to face to face to face to face. But since the pandemic, our life has become more virtual. Pirkei Avot, a collection of sayings about how a Jew should be a Jew in the world, says, when two people sit face to study Torah, the Spirit of God hovers between them. One might say that God emerges out of the conduit of the relationship between the two people. And one might think that thanks to technological advances like Zoom, live stream, we would, through our ability to remain connected to far-flung friends and family, we would feel more connected, more in relationship than ever before. But the truth, it turns out, is quite the opposite. Yeah, you're shaking your head. No, that's correct. The Jewish religious experience is communal, and Judaism requires us to make an effort to go to our house of worship as often as we can. This week's Torah portion, Tzav, says that every single Israelite in the ancient imagining of the Torah must make the harrowing journey to the center of worship in person, to stand face to face in person with the priests, to make an offering. Chapter 7, verses 29 and 30 say not only must we go there and stand face to face in relationship with the priest, but we must offer, we must give the offering to the priest with our own hands. The Torah's lesson, as usual, is eternal. Building community and knowing God cannot be fully accomplished virtually. Since the pandemic, we have been conducting a global experiment to see if life can be lived remotely over the internet. In-person meetings, Thanksgivings, Passover Seders, even birthday parties are taking place over Zoom. Even Burning Man took place over Zoom one year. Yet God does not dwell in Zoomland. Instead, we find in Zoomland something else, something that we actually find quite sinister. In her recent article in the Reformed Jewish Quarterly Journal, Rabbi Dr. Shirley Idelson quotes the philosopher Jason Lanier saying, "Whenever you connect with someone online, it is controlled by a sneaky third person." Rabbi Idelson explains, even when we know that Facebook and Zoom collect and sell our data, we resist the recognition that the time and attention of human beings, the sanctification of which lies at the heart of the religious experience, is now a commodity being sold in bulk, with the worth of human experience being reduced to the minutes and the seconds that we stay online. In short, when two people sit face to face to face to face to study Torah together, the Spirit of God hovers between them. But when two people connect on Zoom, a sneaky third person sits between them to eavesdrop for profit. What about the communities we form in synagogues? It's not for nothing that it's called a synagogue. Synagogue is a Greek word. It means assembly. In Hebrew we call it, what do we call it? Anybody? Hebrew school students, what do you call it in Hebrew? Synagogue? Beit. Shul is Yiddish for school. Close. Beit Knesset, the house where we gather. And joining a synagogue used to be a local endeavor. You joined your neighborhood shul, your neighborhood synagogue, your neighborhood temple. You joined near where you lived. And now you can watch any service at any synagogue in the world online. There are definitely positives to this, right? If you are ill and you can't make it in person, if you're in the hospital, God forbid, you can watch from your hospital bed and you can stay connected and you can feel that sense of love. If you move out of state, you can continue to watch the rabbi that you love so much, right? You can continue to watch his sermons ad nauseum. But at the same time, it used to be if you moved to a town where there were no Jews, or you lived in a town where there were no Jews and you wanted to be part of a Jewish community, you had to move. Or you had to do what Rabbi Krauss and the Rosners did here in South Orange County. You had to start a synagogue. So, at the same time, as there are all these positive benefits, connection from a distance, there is also an erosion of connection that occurs simultaneously, and there is the unbearable FOMO. FOMO means fear of missing out. Of being able to compare your beloved rabbis. There's the other one over there. Wave at us, Rabbi Kavod. Your beloved rabbis, plural, no apostrophe at the end. Sermons with the sermons of every rabbi in the country, nay, on the planet. And you can compare our wonderful cantorial soloist with every cantorial soloist, every choir on the planet. Fear of missing out. Every synagogue is now no longer compared just to the one up the road, but to every synagogue in existence. And there is holiness to be found in the local synagogue structure. Every synagogue has merit with the individual friendships, the individual relationships that are fostered within it. It is not about production value, although production value is important. As I said at the beginning, I recently became a father. The smallest, closest relationship, the primal link of community, building outward from there. And when my son looks into my eyes, he doesn't say to himself, boy, I wonder what that father on the other side of the country in Connecticut is doing right now. Our local synagogue used to be the world's best synagogue because it was our synagogue. But nowadays you can zoom into Central Synagogue in New York, or you can watch Ikar, or Wilshire Boulevard Temple, or any of the other ones with big production values you can watch online. And It's not neutral. Remember I mentioned that third person? Well, synagogue administrators are smart. They're brilliant, in fact. Ours is ears are burning. Should be ears are burning out there. And they're watching on how to capitalize on this new synagogue marketplace. And many of the larger synagogues have developed special categories of membership for remote members. You don't have to live near your synagogue anymore. And synagogue administrators are crunching the numbers on viewership and feeding this data back to the rabbis who are tailoring their sermons to further slowly sap local communities, concentrating resources and interest in the hands of fewer and fewer and fewer mega synagogues. Which means less and less and less local face-to-face-to-face-to-face connection. We here know community is not about only attending worship services. Community is built through countless informal interactions. We Jews, for example, value our parking lot a great deal. Right? How many of you have formed a friendship in the parking lot? Have had one of those meaningful conversations with one of your clergy in the parking lot? How many of you have found that piece of news? How many of you have been on your way out to your car, ready to go home for Shabbos, and somebody comes up to you and says, hey, just a minute, just one thing before just 30 seconds of your time. And 25 minutes later, it is the most important conversation you've ever had. Zoom doesn't have a parking lot. Zoom has a chat window, which is not monitored by God, but by this sneaky third party, the unseen watcher, waiting to commoditize our time. We know that the relationships that are the bedrock of a Jewish community are formed face to face to face to face, in hallways, on your way in, on your way out, sitting in the schmooze cafe waiting for the rabbi to finish their previous meeting, for a class to start, or for dinner to begin. We know that that is where relationships are formed, looking into one another's eyes. Judaism asks us to make an effort. It's one of the, I would say Judaism is the hardest religion on the planet. It asks more of us than any other religion does. And one of the things it asks of us is to make an effort. Get in your car, cross the 5, and come to services. Show up. Show up at services. Show up for shivas. Show up for brisses. Show up for parties. Show up at hospital bedsides. Judaism asks us to show up. And for this reason, I am especially pleased that my first Shabbat back is the small group Shabbat. All of you put forth an effort to show up not once, not twice, but up to 4 times over the course of the year to eat and talk and study Torah together. And surely at those gatherings, the Spirit of God emerged out of those relationships. You all here, by participating in this initiative and others like it, are the balm that we need to treat the growing epidemic of loneliness in our country. Start local, think global. You all are participating in the quest to save Jewish life. These friendships you formed in your small groups are sacred and holy, and it is God and not some third-party meddler looking to make money off your time who dwells between you. So tonight I say, even though there are many other synagogues you could watch online, to whom you could give the mug that says World's Best Synagogue, I say that this is the world's best synagogue, because it is our synagogue. It is my synagogue, it is your synagogue, it is our family's synagogue, and I believe that we can all give ourselves the mug that says, World's Best Synagogue. And with that I say to you, Shabbat Shalom.